And good afternoon, everybody. Oh, there I am. I need a better camera angle than that. All right, is that okay? I want to get a little of the keys, my head. Good evening, good afternoon. Next week, we have to figure out how the time's going to work. Time zones change on Sundays. You guys change in Florida, we don't in Arizona. Right now, we're on the same time zone as California. And then when it changes over, we don't change, and then we'll be on the same time zone as, I think, Utah, I want to say, I forget. But it gets a little confusing. So be on the lookout for the time that we decide to do. So we may keep it the same for Arizona, which will change Florida, or we'll keep it the same in Florida, which will change. So anyway, just be conscious. I'll try to put both times on there, and then you'll have to figure out based on what I put up there. So I'm going to open up a little song just to kind of get the little jitters out. Been running all day long. We had a lot of events, had a lot of fun. And now I want to get into this and have some fun. And I like to open up with some music. So this is one of my favorite ballads. It's called Somewhere Out There. Okay, hopefully that sounded all right. Okay, I've got a bunch of little topics to discuss, a lot of things we've already talked about, but I want to give some clarity. There's some people that are just getting their instruments. Actually, there's been a handful that just bought since in the last 10 days, 2 weeks. And so I want to make sure that when you go back and watch these as they're receiving it, they know exactly what they need to start with first. And the first thing I do want to cover, last week Marco mention these little playlists that were broken up in 3 different categories. So, Jerry, this will answer your question. I have all 3 different types of lists posted on our Patreon site. And I'm going to show you how to get there in a second. By the way, if you have an iPad, it's probably a good idea, unless you like the old-fashioned print them out, but they're about 30 some odd pages worth per handout. So depending on the one that you use, will determine, which one you want to print. You may want all of the above. So what I did is I actually I downloaded it, and I put them. You can't see it from there, but I've got that. What is this one here? This one is, that's one of Marco's. I'll get to that in a minute. Let's see, the playlist by alphabetical order, song order. So I've got it on there. Just makes it a lot easier to find it. So what I did, and I'll just show you here, if you want this, let's see. The easiest way to get there is through our website, but if you can remember, patreon.com/Fletcher Music Centers. And Patreon is spelled patreon.com/Fletcher Music Centers. Now, if you go typing that in and you don't get it right and it's hard to find or whatever, if you go to our website, do you see our website right now on the screen? That I have the right one? Someone nod.
Yeah.
Okay. So right up the top there, that last, it's supposed to look like a P, I think, the little line there. If you click on that, it brings you automatically to our Patreon page. Okay? And what I did is I posted this morning, and I made it for free members and everybody, so it may ask you to join a free membership or something like that. But when you get there, you'll see it. And you'll notice that it just says I have all 3 different categories, and it says GENOS2 playlist by song order, order by style, or in category order. Okay? You can download all 3, add them to your tablet, print them out. I would encourage printing out front and back, obviously. And just reiterate, so the one playlist is, let me just see what we got here. So this is in order by style, if I have the right one. And all that means is that, all the song titles are here, but this column here, this middle column here, it's giving you a list of every single rhythm alphabetically, in alphabetical order. Now, the reason why I kind of like this option, I like all 3 options actually, but this option's pretty cool because these first 2 styles, again, in alphabetical order, if you will, it suggests the 2 songs to go with it. So you get kind of ideas what other songs work with that. So it's listing all the styles in alphabetical order, and that's in the middle. Okay? And then it has the song title, and then it tells you what category it is in the playlist as well. All right? So that's the list by style. The other category that a lot of people, let me pull it up here. This says in order. Did I pick the right one? No. Let me see. Get to it. In song title order. Okay? So if you don't see what I see, just say so. But it says, first one should say, I can get no satisfaction. And then you got 1999, a groovy kind of love, a little bit. So this list is in alphabetical order by the song name. That's probably going to be the more popular one that people will use, because you're going to think of a song to play, and you're going to go searching for it. Like if I want to find the song, Hey Good Looking, it may or may not be in there, but it'll be easy for me to find if it's there or not. So I scroll through, Hey Everybody, Hey Joe. So it doesn't have Hey Good Looking, but at least I get to that. But and when I get to the H's, I might find another one. I got a little ADD, and I went, oh Hey Joe, I used to play that in the back in my rock bands. Anyway, and then the last category is what you're familiar with, which is what's built into the instrument. The last playlist lists them by categories. So I'm not going to show that because that's already in there. So there are a couple ways to access that. Go out to our Patreon page and you should be able to download those. If you have any questions or issues, just email me and I'll get them to you as well. Okay? Now, if I was a brand new person just getting myself one of these instruments, there's two things that I've been telling everybody. The first one is the playlist in alphabetical order. By the way, the song that I opened up with, Somewhere Out There, those presets that I was using, I went to the playlist and it was in, which one did I use? Let's see here. Movies and shows, movie and show. And I just put Somewhere Out There and it put the presets in there. And that's all I did is I used the presets that were provided. Okay? So the first two things, just a real short recap. You're just getting this, you got it out of the box, you open it up, and you're going to want to start playing. You put your piece of music up, whatever song you want to play. The first thing I would say is go to the playlist. Actually, the first thing I would say is download the list that we gave you so it's easier to find. And if you go to your playlist on the, bring up with the screen here, when you press the playlist button over here, when it comes from, let me actually put it, set it up to where, okay. So if you get it fresh out of the box, after we've updated it with the Fletcher Edition package and Marcos presets, when you press the playlist button, here's what's going to happen. You press playlist, oh, it's on my previous one. What it'll show is this. And if you press example, and then you press the playlist button on the GENOS2, that's all it'll show up. So I've had a lot of people get it and instantly contact me saying there are none of the songs that you say are in there. So when you have it on this, just press where it says example, and then you'll see the user, touch user, and then you'll see next to user. Now, if you don't have a USB in, I'm going to take it out actually. Okay, you'll see that it'll just, the user button there, and then when you press playlist, I'm going to go back to where. That's what it'll look like when you first initially access it. You touch playlist for GENOS, and then it'll give you all the categories. Again, if you're finding a song title alphabetically on that list, it's going to tell you which category to go to. So when I looked up Somewhere Out There, I looked for it alphabetically. It told me movie and show, and then I went to movie and show. And then again, you press it, and then finally, you don't see it on the screen here, but let me do it anyway. Once you have that highlighted, you press the playlist button here, and then what will happen is it will show all of the song titles alphabetically within that playlist. Okay? So I would encourage getting the one that we're providing alphabetically. Printing it out is worth it, putting it on your tablet, computer, whatever method that's going to work for you. And then when you find it, and then you can scroll. Now you see the little arrow there underneath the 1/10. When you touch that, they scroll at a page at a time. You see? 11 to 12, or 20, sorry. If I touch the little arrow again, it goes to the next, there it goes, 21 to 30 and so forth. Now, if I have a song like Somewhere Out There, what I did, instead of hitting the little arrow, I just hit the arrow with the little line, and it brought me way to the bottom, which basically was a little closer to the S's. And then I went up with the little arrow until I got to the S. And then
way of doing it alphabetically, just putting an S and it'll automatically go to the S's just like that.
Okay, now I had a student behind me here ask, can I do an alphabetical search? On this playlist, I've not been able to do an alphabetical search. And that's why we provided those lists. So if you have them handy, you'll at least know which one to go to exactly instead of hunting around for minutes and minutes and minutes. I'm going to say minutes and minutes for a song title only to find out. You'd have to, sometimes, I've mentioned this before, a lot of times I'll have a song that's considered oldies and R&B, and I don't know which group it's in, and it's one or the other. So having that, okay? So once you find it, you can touch it on the screen, press it again where it's green or check mark. Okay, if you don't want to do it that way, you can use your little spinny wheel on the dashboard here, and it'll spin through as well. As you can see, I'm using the dial on the keyboard itself. And when you get to a style or sound or song setup that you want, you can either press it again, or you can press the load. You'll see the load option on the bottom right corner there. That's another option. And when you do that, it'll load up the setups, or right over next to the dial, there's the enter button. So there's multiple ways of accessing it and selecting it, okay? Now I know some of you have been doing this already for a while. This is for the benefit of those who haven't gotten it yet or going to, or they just got it. That to me is the first way of getting, you got a piece of music, if it happens to be a song title list. And here's what you need to know about the presets. One, when you're activating a song setup or playlist, should I say, it will automatically activate number 1. So you don't have to press it in this case. Okay? So when I push somewhere out there, 1 is already activated. Number 1 always has an introduction programmed into it, unless the song just doesn't call for it. Number 6 always has the ending. And many times, now I haven't gone through all the songs, there's a lot of song titles, many times 1 and 2 are very similar in the setup. 1 has the intro, 2 does not, but has the same setup. And what I've noticed a lot is the last 2 are the same, the last one typically has the ending. Now, you can have some fun with it going through those, and maybe that'll be different on some of the song titles, but that's what I've noticed on some of those, okay? Now, the other option that we have that we've encouraged a lot of students to do is using the one-touch settings. And I want to mention this because I still find some students that from time to time intertwine the two. In other words, they'll do a playlist song, and then they'll do the one-touch setting, and then they'll have questions about what I talked about, and then I have to refer them to here. Or this is what's happened in some cases. Now we want to find a rhythm style. So on the screen, as many of you probably know now, you have this little orange here, or you can push the style button. And when you press it, you have a list of all your styles to choose from. So let me go to the screen. I touched the orange one. Okay, and as you can see, they're in categories or genres. Many people are familiar with this concept if you've had a GENOS already, or even if you have a Lowry organ and this is a secondary instrument you're adding to your repertoire of instruments. It's no different. It's the style of categories, and then within each one there's multiple pages. So you just go through. If I have Latin, rock, cha-cha, and you pick it and so forth. Here's where some students, when you get yours, if you haven't gotten it yet, just be aware of this. So once I pick a rhythm style, I have rock cha-cha, for example. I have no idea what this is going to sound like, but let's try it out. When I choose a style that I think is going to go with a song, let me put the right video here. Oh, there I am. So a lot of times I'll pick a song that I'm going to play, and instead of going for the song setup, I'll try to find a style that I think based on the word, the way it is. You know, a lot of times if it's a Latin song, that's kind of pretty obvious. Or if I'm playing a song like In the Mood, Sing, 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 or something from the big band era, I know I'm going to go to the jazz category. So a lot of times, don't shortchange your instincts, because a lot of times your instincts are going to tell you. I've actually had times where I was poking around, trying to find a style for a song that I thought was going to work with a category, and and then I found one along the way, And then I realized, oh, that'll actually work. And so once you find a style that you want, back to rock cha-cha, then what you want to do is push the one touch setting. Okay? Now, show of hands, or I don't see everybody's videos, so I know most of you. A lot of you have either a Lowry or an Esty organ. Okay? As you know, on the Lowry models, you have either rhythm preset, okay? If you have an EX model, it's a style setup. On the Estes, it's called one-touch setting, auto setup, or 1 to 16, okay? And then on the Rolands, can't remember what it's called. I think it's also one-touch or what have you. But a lot of the organs have, where you pick a rhythm, you have a button that sets it up for that rhythm. Well, Yamaha has the same, and they're called one-touch settings, okay? So you have 4 one-touch settings that ultimately change the melody sounds, okay? What's happened with some students is they intertwined the two or didn't quite understand completely so they pick a rhythm style, and then they went and they hit one of the registration buttons instead. And then what happened was, like I have it on somewhere out there, and it keeps showing up, and they say, I keep putting the Latin, and I keep getting this one. So just remember that when you're picking, you're saying, yeah. And I say that, it's like a simple little thing, but when you're doing all these presets and so forth, sometimes we just don't quite, I don't want to say remember, we just don't realize we got to use the other setting, okay? So if I do the one-touch setting, if I go back to Latin, and I go to rock cha-cha, then I use the one-touch settings, okay? Those settings will be setups for that style. Okay, now, let me see if I can explain this next thing that doesn't confuse what I just said. So earlier I mentioned that if you use a playlist, it sets up the presets for that song under the registration memory. Okay, so let me say this. If you use a style and you use one-touch setting, you can't always go back to the registration. It's excluded to that. However, if you use a song setup from the playlist and you set up the registration memory and you're playing, you can opt to go over to the one-touch setting and use those as well.
Only with playlist?
If you start with playlist first and then you decide I want to use some of the one-touch settings, you can do that.
But you can't when it's...
But what you can't do is pick a rhythm style, put one-touch setting, and then switch over to the registration. There's a slight chance will work, but it'll only work if it happens to have a same rhythm programmed at that time. Okay, that's why. Okay? So I got someone behind me nodding her head. That's me. Okay, so here's an example. Let me go back to the song setup that I had for somewhere out there, okay? So I'm playing along. Now, and what you're going to notice is sometimes the one-touch settings, when I jump from here to here, are similar. Okay? A lot of times they might take it from there and then just reorganize it with the arrangement over here. But let's see. Okay? So I'm on the registrations. I'll just choose one-touch setting. The rhythm still stays, doesn't go away, because I started here, and then I decided to go over here. Okay? Now, I'm going to start with the rhythm. I'm going to put Latin, rock cha-cha. I'm going to use one-touch setting because I'm selecting a rhythm first, and I'll put on an intro. Let's see what happens here. Got one-touch setting too. And then I go, well, let me try try the registration memory over here. It went back to the setups that was in there for somewhere out there. Now, some of you may know that, some of you may not. Some of you are going like this, like, oh, she's saying, yeah, that's happened to me. So, and I say that because I just want to make sure. I learned a long time ago from one of our artists that would come in and teach workshops. He would always say in a class, sometimes he'd say the same thing 3 or 4 times in the same class, and he would always start by saying, we learn by repetition, okay? And so it just reminding you, and when you get it, to do that, or if you already have it, just remember that. So keep that in mind with the 2. Now, so those are the first 2 things. On the one-touch setting, I'm going to take it a step further, and then I'm going to talk about something else. When you're using one-touch settings, it's changing, basically, your melody sounds. Okay? But there's another thing that we have here, and it's called main variation A, B, C, D, and E. Now, I know many of you, I'm looking on, I know a lot of you have seen and heard this many times. Main variation A, B, C, and D is basically when you have a style chosen. So in this case, I'll go back to Rock Cha-Cha and play a different song, and I'll just get it going. A, B, C, D. A is very simple in the background. It's not busy. It's very tamed. Sometimes it may be like a 3-piece to some degree. Very simple and tamed, okay? So I have main variation. You listen to the background. Here's B. Notice it just picks up a little bit. Okay, it's getting a little fancier. Here's C. A little different in the arrangement. Number 4, D. Notice the band is really fancy now. So I just went with the same sound, piano, I went A, B, C, and D as I was playing, and the band just gradually grew to something fancier or more elaborate, where they changed, okay?
Can you use a playlist that too, or only on when you choose the style and
Can you use the playlist?
variations?
Well, when you use a playlist and you're setting up a song, she asked, can you use a playlist? When you're using a song, and it's programming the registrations here, okay? A lot of times, those presets are automatically changing these for you.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
So you can just
You can change these anytime you want.
Oh, it doesn't matter if you pick the sound or style or.
Okay, so the reason why I'm looking this way, folks, I want them to, there's an actual person here, okay? It's not myself talking to myself. The question, and it's actually a good question because I actually did it. I chose a playlist song. I programmed it in the, put it in the registration memory. As I was playing one of those presets, it automatically chose A, B, C, and D for me. One of the presets that I played, it was on D, and I decided on that preset, I went over back to C. So you can change A, B, C, and D anytime you want. Just remember that when you go back to another registration, it may switch it back, okay? When you're using one-touch settings, however, when you're doing these, this will not change A, B, C, D, okay? So I can do this with one setting all day long, or I can do this and put B, and while I'm playing, maybe do number 3 over here. Okay? So you can interchange these however you want. You can start over here with one, you can push the other, do it at your leisure. Now the one other little thing that maybe a lot of you already know, if you don't, if you can learn one thing today, it's great. over to the left, and I know I've mentioned this a few times, and I like to, again, this is another relearn by repetition. So over here on the left side of the screen, and dare I move my camera. I'll make you dizzy for a minute, folks. I should have had a third camera set up over here. On we go for a ride. Okay, can you see that? All right, I'm going to make you dizzy for a minute, okay? Okay, so you see it says accompaniment, OTS Link, and autofill. So I'm just showing you those buttons now, and I'll put the camera back, and then I'll talk about them. OTS Link you'll see is off, and autofill. What OTS Link does is when you have that activated, when you have this main variation A, when you're playing, this links the variations to your one-touch settings. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now watch. I'm going to push A, and I'm going to push B, and when I push B, it'll jump to number 2. Now I push C, it jumps to number 3, and I push D, and it jumps to number 4. Okay? That's one-touch setting link, or otherwise labeled as OTS Link. Okay? And the purpose of that is when you're playing, maybe you don't want to have to use both hands at a time, and you want to use kind of, it's kind of like in a suggested arrangement. If you push main variation A and you're playing along, now when I push B, number 2 will change. C. D. I'm having fun. Sorry, I got carried away.
No. Oh, in your pants?
What's that?
Move this little button.
I use this little lever. I'll mention that. It's just a fun little tool to do. I'll come back to that. I think I want to play that whole song using that. I never played Rock Cha-Cha, so you'll discover things. Anyway, so that's A, B, C, D with OTS Link. Now, one other button you saw over there was called autofill. I kind of leave that on. And all that does is when you switch from A, B, C, and D, it does a little fill from as it switches over from one arrangement to the band to the other. Okay, so I think it's a very, very clever little thing. All right? Now, the other thing that I would encourage you to do, if you haven't done it yet, and if you haven't gotten it yet, on the dashboard here, there is 1 through 10, and right next to it, it says registration bank minus and plus. Okay? And when you push the 2 together, all right, you'll get, let me pull this up on the screen here.
Additional songs.
All right. So it's on my, whatever I was using last. Okay? But if you're on a particular thing, let me just do this. All right? If you push the 2 together, and you'll see that it's currently, that's the last thing I was using, okay? If you get to the screen, just push the button in the top left corner there that says user. Okay? And you'll see this show up.
That's where I needed to find.
All right?
I didn't know that.
So a lot of times when we're intertwined with the screen and we're going through different settings and sounds and what have you, and you're exiting the screen and you're going back to your home screen and then you're you're somewhere else. I'm on a playlist, and I'm on here, and then I go back, and then I go, okay, Robert said push the minus and the plus next to 1 and 2. And I go here, and then, well, where is what he said? Just press the user, and it brings you to this screen. When you see this screen, this is all the stuff that was, I'd say generously loaded by Marco, but it wasn't generous. We actually had to pay him for that. And we should. We should pay him for that. Okay, and so what you have are various little categories. Famous people are presets that he loaded, and you just pick a category, whatever you want, 101 strings, and when you do that, now here's what I will tell you. Let me switch my camera here. Once I select what I want, the difference between this and the playlist is this. Remember earlier when I said you select a playlist, it automatically programs presets here, and it automatically turns on one. Okay? Well, these custom presets that Marco put in, you have to take it one step further just by pressing preset 1. It won't activate the first one. So just remember that. So I'm going to push the 2 together again. Okay? And then what'll happen on the screen, okay, I'm on the last thing that I was at. So let me press user. And when I press user, I get all the different things that he loaded. Each folder has a bunch of stuff. Okay, famous people, and then you can go through the pages. And then when you select the one that you want, let's say blues band. Now watch this. So these presets, he's got, in this case, 8 presets for blues band style. But it's not lit anymore. The blue buttons are on, but the first one's not activated. So I'm going to activate number 1. And then I play. That's actually pretty cool. Here we go. Let me think of something to play here. I'll just do a little blues. You have to press the ending on there, yes. Uh-huh. I'm I'm going to start charging you for getting my camera now. No. Anyway, I actually, back in my day, 40 years ago, I was, I played a lot of bands and, guitar, and we did a lot of blues improvisation, so I always, when I get that. But that was, let me pull it up on the screen there. Those sounds came from the blues band that Marco put in there. Those are great. Anyway, so if you go to Marco's class presets, these are, self-explanatory. They're song titles, presets that he custom designed for all of these songs. And the PDFs are typically, we give them the PDFs. You have to print out your own individual. But again, I always encourage, invest maybe in a little iPad. I have a student that has an iPad just for the purpose of putting music on. Do you do that? Do you use it for other things too? Sharon Wilson here, she bought an iPad just so she had music on it. But anyway, and it works the same way, but these are more presets designed for certain songs. Now, you have two choices if you want to go back. On the bottom right corner, see that little arrow? Okay, or if you press the user button on the top corner, it'll bring you back to this page. Style presets. These are presets. I'll push style presets there. Oops. And basically, they're presets for different styles of music. So if I put bossa nova, it'll program, again, the presets. And then you'll have great, just really miscellaneous setups that's great for bossa nova. Or if I put big band, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And there's actually another category of blues. All right? So
Bring those up. The songs will come up that are on those.
if you're doing the Marco's class presets, you'll get the
songs.
right. But these are categories. If you go to the style presets, that means style means like a rhythm style, music style. So you'll see that there's two. AOC basically means a lot of these have harmonies. Okay? AOC is a terminology that was on the Lowry organs. And I say that because some people never had a Lowry organ. So if you see that, AOC, I think ultimately it stands for automatic organ chord. I forget what the original term was. But it basically means AOC is a harmony. Well, let me just verify that. He might have used a different terminology. Let me just make sure. Let me put it on and play. And oh, yes. Okay, so I'm right. So basically, they're the exact same thing. They're similar, but each one of these presets have a lot of harmonies built into the presets, okay? And then the last, well, there's actually a few others in there. I won't go into the others. You got the playlist, style soar guides. Well, I'll let Marco talk about that. That's pretty cool. But that's just a quick example. So again, if you were just getting this and you were getting started, I'd start with the playlist. Make sure to get the PDF from us. If you don't have it, you can go on our Patreon page. If you can't find a way to do that, let me know and I'll make sure you get that. The other thing is picking a style. And sometimes I just say, pick a style that you have no clue whatever it's going to sound like. You know, Dreamy Waltz. I have a feeling that's going to sound as good as it sounds on the title. I'm going to put on Dreamy Waltz. Sometimes what I do is I just go through the rhythms and I just listen to here's intro 1. The intro 1s are great because they're very simple and they're short in nature, but when you get into intro 2s and the 3s, a little more elaborate. And then you do number 3, much more fancy. Wow. And then go back and play those same ones. So here's intro 2, and I'm going to do a minor chord. Ooh. Dramatic. Or my intro number 3. Let's see what happens with a minor chord. Wow. Ending 3. Wow, they're very, very pretty. So you can spend hours going through, but I would encourage going through even the ones that sometimes I'll look at a style on here and I'll think, I probably won't never use that. And I'll just put on an intro to it, just try something. A little something we did today, which ties into this. So we had a little students play here at the store right before this event. And in between each student, what I had all the students do was I had them a rhythm chart of all of the rhythms that were on the organ that I had available. And I put like 24 songs in a separate little bowl. And what I had one student do was pick a rhythm off any random rhythm. Okay? So they pick a random rhythm, and then I have another student pick a song out of the hat or the bowl. And then what the goal was is I had to play that song with the rhythm that they chose. So it was completely random. And we had some very interesting ones. And surprisingly, some of them actually sounded pretty good. There was one I did with Phantom of the Opera. I forget what the style was, but I would have thought, boy, that's never going to work. And then someone chose Piano Bossa. It was like a bossa nova style with piano. And the song that they chose was God Bless the USA. And I played it, and it's surprising it actually worked. The point is the same. A lot of times, you have styles that we get locked into, for example, Latin. There's a lot of Latin songs. We typically go to the Latin category. But there's a lot of great jazz standards, big bands, rock songs. You can use them with the Latin styles and interchange them. And the way that's going to encourage you is going through the style, pick a rhythm, even if it's something you don't think you'd be interested in doing, and then pressing the intros and listening to them. There's a style that was introduced on a Lowry organ once called Slumdoggy for Slumdog Millionaire. And I always thought that's the only thing you can use that for that style. What I discovered is I got an idea, stole it from Joe Fontesha, one of the artists. He did Phantom of the Opera with it. And I use it all the time with that. Dennis Awe, organ enthusiast, strictly organ player. He actually played the song Temptation with it, and it worked perfectly with it. Point is that you can choose songs for styles that you don't normally do, so just explore. The last thing I want to share with you today, I actually have 3 more things, but I don't have enough time, is just this, because I know Marco in the last 2 sessions talked about saving presets onto the USB. They did a couple sessions. And what will happen at first, probably for most, is what's happened over the years. There's a lot of people will use the USB, but only if they have something on it for them to use. And that's natural. Over time, I encourage, just like he said, we all say it, get a USB that you're going to use, make it your experimental USB. In other words, who cares what happens if you accidentally delete something on it, whatever. That's your and actually, I had one like that. I still do, actually. So when I do stuff, I put and I work on it. And then this is the one that I save all of my presets on. But what will happen in a short time is like I'm starting to create my own song arrangements and presets for certain songs that I play, styles of music, and I put them on here. And a lot of times we'll share that information with you. Or in Marco's case, he developed a whole new category of presets. I wonder if I have those. Let's see. I think last week he mentioned he had, there was, here we go. Custom mode. These were custom ones he's been working on for a while. So let me pull up the right screen here, Ultimate. So here's some custom ones that he did. And really they were for styles of music. It tells you what tempo to use, what intro to use. It's pretty well done. It's very well done. There's 50 of them. Okay? Now, that much work, I would encourage him to sell that. And he offered a great price point on that. So if you haven't gotten it, but when you get that, or in some cases, sometimes, I actually had a student here. I don't know if you know Zelma. She has one. She just wanted one setup for a song. She just wanted one good to play it. And so we poked around and saved it on there. And now she was like, okay, now how do I get that on mine? So I had it on her USB. So I'm going to just show you real quickly. This part is like so easy. So obviously you insert the USB. And before I do that, I'm going to get it ready. What I'm going to do is switch to the screen. And then I'm going to say what I'm doing so you see what happens on the screen. Okay? All right, now let's see if it pops up in there. USB device is connected. You see that? So all that's telling you is that, hey, there's a USB that's been put into the instrument. Okay? And to access it, you access it the same way. Oops. Pushed the wrong button on my Zoom here. Okay. So you access it the same way as we did Marco's registrations that's built in. You push the plus and the minus together. So I'm going to push that and bring back the screen for you. I don't have a Steve on the other side switching cameras for me, so I got to do it. I got one hand on the key, one on the computer. Okay. Now I push the two together. So you'll see I'm back where I was earlier. You can do the user is what's built into the instrument there. But you see where it says USB 1. Now if you put another USB in, it'll say USB 2. And I guess there's a third slot too.
2 on that.
Right. So again, just so you catch this here. So on the dashboard here, you got 1 through 10 here, right to the side of it. You have a plus and a minus. You push. Now, don't push the 2 and then hold it. Just tap the 2 together. I had some people, they're doing this, 1, and just tap the 2, and the screen will automatically populate when you do that. And when it comes up on the screen, so again, you'll see I'm on the last category. You can either go back to your user, or you don't have to. You just touch USB 1. So here's just some of the stuff that you can look on the screen there. You see where it says test? See, that was me testing how to use the USB. So whenever I had a question about it, I would sound a little more intelligent. I was learning how to use it. You see I have a folder for my GENOS2, and there's just a few miscellaneous things in there, okay? Like I did an arrangement on Imagine. You know, you just touch it. Once you touch it, the presets are programmed in the registration and the instrument, just like the others. Okay.
The presets are only with the USB, or when you go to like Marco's songs and the one.
Okay. So I have a question behind me. They're only in the USB. No, if you touch user. That's what's built into the instrument.
Marco's songs are
all of this stuff which you're looking at on the Fletcher edition, folks,
no need of
that's built into the instrument. Okay, I just want to clarify.
That's what I need.
You don't need a USB to access this. What do you need a USB for? Extra stuff that we design and make for you. So what Marco did, well, here's mine. I'm just getting started. So you'll see I've got, some setups for summertime. Imagine was a song setup I did. Autumn Leaves. Now you'll notice there it says electric organ free play and top of the world country. Okay? Those are presets. Actually, those two are samples of Marco's Ultimate Collection, by the way. I wanted to kind of get a feel for that. So if I want those setups, I just touch it, and then automatically, these are programmed with those setups. Now, it was top world country. Let's see if I have that song here. I think he provides all the songs in there too. I happen to have it. Yeah. So if I want to play top of the world, and you just press your preset, and well, yeah, so that particular one, by the way, was part of the Ultimate Collection that Marco has. He was just kind enough to give me one or two of them. Okay, I had to beg for the second one. No.
I have on the iPad.
Okay. All right, so those two that I showed you were samples of the Ultimate Collection that Marco had that he was offering for sale. So, but anyway, even when you get your own presets or when you're saving presets, loading presets into the instrument is so easy. Now, here's the thing to remember. As long as you have that USB loaded in there, the minute you select one, it instantly changes to the next group of presets. Okay? So it's very fast and instant. It makes it very easy to do when you're doing that. Okay? So, I lied. I said it was going to be a short class. If you're just getting this for the very first time, have that song setup. I keep referring to song setup because that's what I'm used to over the years. The playlist handy. Okay? Go through the playlist. You're going to find your songs like you normally do. You're going to pull up a song, find the song on the list. It puts the presets in the registration memory here. Okay? You can use the one-touch setting if you're starting here first and you're using those, but you'll find that it's not necessary. Number two, you have a song. You might want to find a style for that song instead of what the suggestion is. You want to do your own. Pick a style. Use one-touch setting 1, 2, 3, and 4. You have your intros and endings 1, 2, and 3. You have your endings 1, 2, and 3. Main variation A, B, C, and D. Simple, all the way up to very fancy and elaborate. The one-touch setting link will more than likely be off when you get it. So if you want that feature activated so that when you go A, B, C, D, okay, when you have that feature activated, if you want that feature activated, just make sure it puts that on. And when you go A, B, C, D, it'll automatically change those. Sometimes I like that, and sometimes I like to go A, 3, C. I kind of bounce around. It's just whatever your preference is. All right, so those are the two things there. To get to all the presets that Marco's put in, you push the two together, you press user, and you'll see all the categories there. If you have a USB and you save stuff or you buy stuff or you're given stuff, it works the same way. Just make sure it's loaded and then look, it'll say USB is connected, and then you'll see USB 1 in this case. You could have up to 3, loaded, and you'll have each one, and you can just go back and forth from any one that you want, okay? So what I'm going to do in closing is, I like that, I think it was the Rock Cha-Cha. I don't know, I'll play, but I'll do a little close with the Spanish Eyes with the Rock Cha-Cha. And by the way, this little spinny wheel, or this, what is this thing called? I call it the fun dial. It does a lot of things. We could do a whole class on that, but depending on what you're using, you can bend the notes. Sometimes I'll hold a note in blues. That's a very common blues riff. While you're holding it, you can, and stuff like that. But anyway, so I'll finish up with a little number here for you. I'm going to start in a minor chord and then go into a major chord. So I'm going to start in A minor and then go into C for the song Spanish Eyes, just using Rock Cha-Cha with one-touch setting. Now see, there we go. I didn't know, I wasn't expecting that. So when I heard it, I started thinking, well, maybe I should play Carlos Santana, right? So we'll do Carlos Santana, then Spanish Eyes. Here we go. That's in G minor, I know it. If I remember how to play it. I did it on the guitar. Something like it. Okay, now watch this. While it's playing, I'll do intro 2 and do a different chord. A minor, intro 2 while it's playing. And then one touch setting 2. Setting. Oh boy, you know, I try to make it simple, have some fun doing it. Most of the people that are getting this product from us are hobby players, and right? So, you know, even though I get fancy once in a while, I like to show that, hey, even if you're doing one finger, you're still going to sound great and have fun doing it, okay? It's about having fun with the product. It's for the hobby. You don't have to be a pro to enjoy and get a lot of music out of it. So hopefully, even though I touched on a lot of topics that we've brought up several times, hopefully you got to see it in a different light that's going to just make it a little bit easier for you to use when you have it, when you get it, or if you have it already. So that's all I have for now. If you have any questions and you've left them in the chat, I will get to you, Don. I'll answer your question. I can download these, and I'll answer your question. Yes, there is the easy play features on it, but I'll get with you on that. Okay. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed your time with me today and you learned something, or some things, plural. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Marco. Send us emails. We're both very inundated with stuff to do, so if we don't get back right away, just be patient. But anyway, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed today's class, and stay safe and play music every day and enjoy your Yamaha GENOS2, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Oh, and happy Halloween. Go eat some candy.